be able to tell you heartfeltly that you aren't alone when you have our services. We do home visits, visiting kids in residential facilities and foster homes. We're all encompassed.
Welcome to episode 77 of the LorainCounty.com Insights Podcast. I'm your host, Ed Skimmon. We begin today's episode with a thanks to the LorainCounty.com champion sponsors: Lorain County Community College, Lorain County JVS, Emerge Inc., WOBL Radio, Lorain County Commissioners, and Community Foundation of Lorain County. Today, we're talking with Chelsea Freeman-Yates, Executive Director of the Children's and Families First Council of Lorain County. Join us as Chelsea shares how the council brings together agencies and resources to support youth and their families, addresses the challenges of service coordination, and reflects on the impact of COVID-19 on mental health and community needs. Chelsea also discusses her journey into leadership, highlights success stories, and looks ahead to future initiatives like the Kids Summit. Here is my conversation with Chelsea Freeman-Yates.
My name is Chelsea Freeman-Yates. I'm the Executive Director of the Children and Families First Council of Lorain County, and I'm a clinical social worker by trade.
Welcome, Chelsea. Thanks for joining us and sharing your insights. Could you provide an overview of Children and Family First Council and your role within the organization?
So every single county has a Children and Families First Council. We just actually made our 30 years. Every county has a different capacity for their council. So it's in the Ohio Revised Code. We have mandated members. The mandated members include like the Board of Developmental Disabilities, one of the county commissioners, the Director of Children's Services, the health commissioner, the representative from the largest school district, which happens to be Lorain, and then also a representative from the largest city, which is also Lorain, and obviously Lorain City Schools. And then we have a couple nonprofit organizations that sit on, and then early intervention. So really the makeup of that is we meet several times a year. We talk about barriers. We talk about how we could work together, how we don't silo services, and then we create a shared plan that we have to send to the state. In that plan, that's where it varies because there's different levels of support. Like some councils get lots of in-kind support and pooled funding, so those councils tend to be more robust. We're very fortunate in Lorain County that we have a very supported council. So we get to do a lot more services than what's technically mandated in the ORC. We also have a direct practice. So in our direct practice, we do what I call fancy case management services. It's called high fidelity wraparound and service coordination. We work with multi-system youth 0 to 21 years old. Multi-system is very fluid. So usually we have 3 criteria to be made multi-system. That might be current court involvement, low socioeconomic, special education, intellectual disability. It could be medically complex or any array of those categories. We've never really not made a kid multi-system if they need help because that's really what our organization is. We get lots of phone calls for how do we meet this need or where do we need to be linked up. We like to be that go-to agency. That's really what I think the state wanted councils to be, is bringing everybody to the table and maximizing resources and doing what's financially best because all of these kids are Lorain County kids. We dabble in all sorts of other stuff. We actually just released a grant opportunity. We're doing five $5,000 mini grants in support of our shared plan. So anything creative that you can think that we could try to do preventatively in the county. So we're working on the micro level, the meso level, and the macro level. I also oversee early intervention in our county. It's a federal grant that's supplemented by state dollars. So we have our hands also in the littles too. And that's a program that's 0 to 3.
So you provide both direct service and coordinated service and then strategic planning, essentially.
Yes, on the countywide.
So let's talk a little bit more about the direct services and programs that you provide.
Our wraparound, again, really fancy case management. So say we get a referral, our highest referrals come from our school districts, which that makes sense because that's where the kids are at. And then our local partner, so our juvenile court, our board of DD, and then children's services. We like to say that we're a sister agency to children's services. Their board is actually my board, but in their sense that they're reactive, like they have to follow a very specific code. We're preventative. We're trying to keep kids in the community. We're trying to bring those kids that go into custody back to the community. So we were really focused on that when we do our case management. A youth could come in because they have a mental health exacerbation, mom or dad or grandma or aunt or foster family is struggling with managing behaviors. So my staff go in and they say, what resources do you have? What haven't you had? What has worked, how do we amplify that? How do we take advantage? How do we replicate that again in a different setting? We do anything from working with a school to try to provide in-school supports in the community, in the workplace. There isn't anything really that our service coordinators don't do. I have 3 full-time service coordinators and then a manager that holds a caseload that oversees kids. At any given time, we have anywhere from 40 to 70 kids open. It doesn't seem like a lot, but we're talking about if you get referred to our services, we're the top tier of services. Like, you have extensive needs.
So you said it was around for about 30 years. What was the original community need that you were responding to?
I wouldn't be able to tell you 30 years ago, but I could tell you that COVID, there's been a huge shift. And I do think that there is more of a focus on mental health and that we're really trying to fight stigma. The stigma is absolutely there still. But I think that just within my short decade of a professional career so far, that really COVID has impacted a lot of us. Not only that there are less providers going into the career field, or less people going into the career field and becoming providers, but there's just more and more kids that are being identified. And that's even like just going to get an autism evaluation and the wait list being up to a year, 2 years now versus pre-COVID when it was easier to get linked up with services.
Without revealing names, can you share a specific story that illustrates the difference your organization makes?
There's one particular client that we've worked with for a very long time. Prior to being referred to us, they had lots of services. This wouldn't be a kid that you would look at and be like, they're going without, or they don't have family that cares or follows through. They got referred to us because things kept on being escalated. We really went in there, assessed what was actually really working, what people needed to be there, not being there. And you'd be surprised, it's hard for providers to have hard conversations. People feel a sense of ownership that this is their lane, so they should be in the lane. And really, in the mental health world and in the behavioral health world, that's not always the case. Things are not always linear. In our specific role, we often have to go in and say they need a higher level of care, they need this level of care, but you're not meeting their particular needs. Building rapport with clients is really important. So there was a lot of really hard conversations that were had for this particular case. Even hard conversations saying that a kid needed to go to a higher level of care, and that could potentially mean an out-of-home placement. So that was what was advocated for this particular situation, and that's usually not what happens. Usually we say we need to be in the home, we need to create like that hierarchy in the home, we need kids to know that they need to be kids and parents to know that they need to be parents. But a really long story short, this kid had several stints of being out of the home, but after working together, having those really hard conversations, the youth was able to be reunited at home, and things have been going really well. Now, I know that was without a lot of details, but I think if we were to have them sitting here in this room, they would be able to tell you heartfeltly that you aren't alone when you have our services. Like, we do home visits. I've flown all over the United States visiting kids in residential facilities and foster homes. I've taken calls at midnight. I've answered questions at 3 a.m. because a grandparent's mind is racing and they don't know when their kid is going to discharge from the hospital. We're all encompassed.
How are you funded?
We're funded locally. We do get pooled funding. We have state revenues through the Department of Children and Youth, and that's under the Ohio Children and Families First. So there's actually an Ohio council. So we do get a certain amount of funding from there. We get a chunk of Children's Services MSY funds. We get about 13% of their funding. And then we do get some federal funding revenues.
Can you articulate the value that you create beyond those you directly serve? Why has the county benefited from the work you do?
Just to give a little bit more about myself, I was born and raised in Lorain County. My entire professional career is here. I'm raising my family here. I think that as the director of this agency, I want all of the kids that are born here to stay here. The value of what we're doing is every decision that we make, it's because we want the best for every kid that lives here. That's also another reason why we're doing the Kids Summit. So the state did a Kids Summit as a rollout for the Department of Children and Youth this past September. And what our group came back from is we want to do this at our county because we need to get everybody to the table. So we're actually estimating about 400 people, and it's at the Lorain Shipyard. And what our plan is, we have people from the state that are coming. So Kara Wente is actually the director of DCY. She's coming. We invited local legislators, we invited mayors, commissioners, superintendents from local school districts, obviously the county directors, but we also opened up 200 spots for local professionals. I was flabbergasted with how fast I got 200 people. Like, we're already past it. We've gotten a lot of people from school districts, but we've also gotten private business sectors that they want to come and they want to represent and they want to have a voice in what we're doing for our children and families. So that just goes to show that the need is really there.
How do you define success? What are the metrics and outcomes that are most important to you and your team?
We learn from everything in our job. We've had lots of triumphs and run into a barrier every single day. We are really a data-driven organization. We use SMART goals, and we really do try to have tangible evidence-based practices. But honestly, when you're working with children and youth, if you make it to the next day and kids stay in the home, that's what our outcomes want to be.
Specific to Lorain County, what are the biggest challenges and barriers for the youth that you work with?
Number one top challenge is always transportation. How do you get a kid to school when we don't necessarily have busing? VIA has been a great help, but you can't go between Elyria and Lorain. And even when you can try to work that out with the transit, that's impacted kids being able to get to and from doctors, going to grocery stores where food is affordable, parents being able to get to jobs and then making it back to pick their kids up. It's our number one barrier.
How do you envision the future for the organization in the next 5 to 10 years?
When I first started this job, we didn't have a lot. I've been here for 4 years now. We had what the ORC mandated us to have. I don't even think I could say that I had full buy-in from council. So now we are a multi-million-dollar organization bringing in funds to disperse throughout the county. We're being able to creatively fund things, not just the Kid Summit, but let's just say the mini grant. That would have never been in our wildest dreams before. So I think that we're only growing from here. Every couple of years, I've been hiring somebody new. We're dabbling in different programming and things that we offer. So I see us hopefully doubling.
Organizationally, are you a department of the county, a nonprofit?
A department of the county.
Let's switch over and talk a little about you. Talked a little bit about your background, but tell us more and what led you to this role.
I want to say that I'm a bleeding heart, but I really think that every day I always try to do what's best. And this is like the only career where you could do that. I don't think that there is any other career that I would be able to be the change maker that I am deep down. I never thought that I was going to be in this macro level. It fell in my lap given all of the jobs that I have had or things that I've dabbled in. I actually went to school to get a pupil service license to work in a school. So I was a school social worker. And even during COVID, I've worked for 3 school districts in our county and then 1 charter school. I loved it. It was great work. I had a great work-life balance. And then somebody's like, have you ever thought about leadership? And then I'm like, you know what? Why not? I think that if people were to describe who I really am, it's that like I'm fearless when it comes to doing what's right. And being a social worker, I always knew I was going to be on.
So you said you've been here about 4 years. What are you most proud of accomplishing in that time?
All of it. Being able to have furniture. At one point, my staff, we really didn't have furniture. We had folding desks. I think that there's something so humbling about taking something and being able to watch it grow in all of the steps and then not even the success of that, but the impact that we're having and the support that we're being able to give. Because I was one of those boots on the ground people, and I never thought that it would be touchable for me to reach out to a county agency to get support. But not only have we offered that to the local providers, we're making it easy, like with a QR code, and you could do a referral, and then you get a whole bunch of directors. You could do a consultation with us. So I think I've taken all of those things and all of those challenges that I had when I did work in the field, and I'm like, how can we make that better?
What would you still like to accomplish?
We need to continue to break down the siloing and work more collaboratively together. That's our shared plan is really focused on continuing to grow together as a county. And then hopefully we'll get some good feedback from the Kids Summit. There's going to be working sessions. So it's not just like we want to come at you to talk. We want to get all of those 400 people's ideas and we want to sift through them to figure out how the county, how my agency can technically be held accountable for helping. Because we can't really just push it off and say we're a resource-rich county. Like, we really need to take accountability to figure out what we need to do.
Outside of work, what are your hobbies and interests and how do they help recharge you?
I have 4 kids. I have a senior this year, so now we're going to be graduation planning, but I love to hike with my family. I like to do yoga. Being mindful is very important, but I like to give back. I do a lot of volunteering too.
Finally, where can people go to get more information about your organization and connect with you?
Our website is www.lccffc.us. We also have social media handles, Instagram and Facebook. We are really good at trying to update all of that.
Thank you, Chelsea, for joining us and sharing your insights.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the LorainCounty.com Insights Podcast. Each episode, we share conversations with the people shaping life in Lorain County, from business and government to education, nonprofits, healthcare, and entertainment. Be sure to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. You can also visit LorainCounty.com to discover local events, volunteer opportunities, and more community resources. If you know someone who's making a difference in Lorain County, send us a note at podcast@LorainCounty.com. We would love to share their story and insights. Special thanks to our producer, Leah Gerke, and to you for listening. This has been the LorainCounty.com Insights Podcast, conversations with the people shaping Lorain County.